Hello Jobbers! Welcome once again to my channel. This is Sir Job and welcome to Sir Job TV. Para sa lahat po ng mga new explorers tsaka new na discovered pa lang po sa aking channel, please don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell for you to be updated with my future videos. So para sa araw na ito, i-discuss ko sa inyo ang chapter 2 ng buhay ng ating national hero. So ang pag-uusapan natin sa umagang ito ay tungkol sa childhood years in Calamba. Welcome to my video number 115. Good morning once again, Golden Choppers. Today is May 1, 2021 and today is Saturday. So everybody is celebrating in the Philippines Labor Day po here sa ating bansa ngayon. So holiday po. So I'm sure that everybody is in the home with your family. So welcome po at sana mapanood niyo po ang video na ito para po ito sa inyong lahat in the continuation of our discussion here sa buhay po ng ating national hero. So nabanggit ko na po sa inyo kanina na ang pag-uusapan po natin is ang setting po or the environment kung saan po mismo ipinanganak at namuhay ang ating national hero na si Jose Rizal. So para sa video na ito, titingnan natin kung ano yung impact ng environment to one's existence, not just only for Jose Rizal but of course to the other existence as well. Magiging basis po natin ito, but we have to focus our attention sa Calamba talaga kung saan mismo ipinanganak ang ating national hero. But talking about environment, of course, we should have to recognize the presence of the Philippines as a country na dito natin masasaksihan that of course in the history talagang mababasa natin na napakaganda ng bansang Pilipinas. So it is undeniably also to speak and to claim that Calamba was also a beautiful place long before talking about the 19th century, the time of our national hero. So it is said that Jose Rizal had many beautiful memories of childhood in his native town. He grew up in a happy home, ruled by good parents, bubbling with joy and sanctified by God's blessing. His natal town of Calamba, so named after a big native jar, was a fitting cradle for a hero. So, Calamba, if we are going to define, that was a very beautiful place before. And even up till until today, of course, Calamba is a very beautiful place in the Philippines, definitely. So, there lived a family, or Rizal family was existed in that particular place na talagang napakagandang picture ng isang family. Of course, atin na po yung nabuksan ang discussion sa chapter 1 na ang family po talaga ni Rizal is a model family for Filipinos if we have to consider their existence long before until sa ating present generation right now. With the kind of descriptions that I gave to you a while ago, ma-justify po natin ito. Its scenic beauties and industrious, hospitable, and friendly folks impressed him during his cradle years and profoundly affected his mind and character. Okay, because of that particular beautiful place, nalinang, okay, ang imagination ng ating national hero. Mas lalong nahon ang kanyang skills, especially in the talent na painting and any other skillful things na meron kay Rizal, mas lalong na-develop. Okay, especially with the kind of people, now according to the description, with the kind of folks living in that particular place, we could say that talagang napakaganda po or harmonious po ang relationship ng mga tao as how it was being described in the 19th century, the place of Calamba. So now let's go to the specific target of our discussion, which is the Calamba or the hero's town. Calamba was a hacienda town which belonged to Dominican order, which also owned all the lands around it. So in fact, yung family ni Rizal, tenant po actually sila ng napakalaking sugar cane or any other mga agricultural products na itinatanim po mismo sa mga napakalaking hacienda na ito na of course pag-aari ng mga mga Dominican order. Sila po yung mga friars who controlled big lands before. 'Di ba? We talk already about this one na ang mga nag-own talaga ng napakagandang land or mga fertile haciendas before ay ang mga friars. So isa sa mga grupo ng mga friars na present during those times ay ang mga Dominican order. So ito po yung nagmamay-ari sa mga lupain mostly in Calamba. It is a picturesque town nestling a verdant plain covered with irrigated rice fields and sugar lands. So ganun po kaproductive ang place na ito sa Pilipinas. Okay, and ganito din po kaganda kung i-define, okay, or i-describe ang lugar na ito sa Pilipinas. A few kilometers to the south looms the legendary Mount Makiling in somnolent grandeur, and beyond this mountain is the province of Batangas. East of the town is Laguna de Bay, an inland lake of songs and emerald waters beneath the canopy of azure skies. In the middle of the north is the distant Antipolo, famous mountain shrine, the miraculous Lady of Peace and Good Voyage. Rizal loved Calamba with all his heart and soul. In 1876, when he was 15 years old and was a student in the Ateneo de Manila, he remembered his beloved town. Accordingly, he wrote a poem on recuerdo a mi pueblo, or in memory of my town. So now let's proceed with our discussion with earliest childhood memories of Jose Rizal. The first memory of Rizal in his infancy was his happy days in the family garden when he was 3 years old. So meron po silang family garden wherein doon po sila usually nagbabanding with the family. So isa po yan sa unforgettable memories ng ating national hero, of course, sa kanyang talking about the childhood years of Dr. Jose Rizal. Because he was frail, sickly, and undersized child, he was given the tender care by his parents. So because hindi na, as we can observe the feature of our national hero, you cannot even think na magiging isa siyang hero at magiging isa siyang national hero ng bansang Pilipinas. Because as to the description, he was frail, sickly, and undersized child. Kasi maliit lang po ang height ni Rizal talaga. Talking about sa kanyang physical feature, eto po talaga ang description ng kanyang pagiging isang person. So that is why, according to the family, talagang binigyan po nila ng extra care ang existence po ni Jose Rizal. His father built a little nipa cottage in the garden for him to play in the daytime. So ganun po ang nangyari. Another childhood memory was the daily Angelus prayer. By nightfall, Rizal related his mother gathered all the children at the house to pray for Angelus. So itong Angelus po, para sa mga Catholics, you are familiar with this one. Pero para sa aming mga hindi Catholics talaga, magkaka-culture shock ka talaga when you first hear this particular sound sa mga places na kung saan pinapatunog ito. Because traditionally, ang Angelus po is 3 times po siyang tutunog sa isang araw. 6 a.m., 12 noon, at saka 6 p.m. So, ganun po ang kanyang mga time kung kailan po tutunog ang Angelus na ito. So, share ko lang sa inyo yung experience ko dito sa Angelus kasi hindi ko po alam talaga ito because I am not Roman Catholic, no, by religion. So, that is why, nung first time ko talaga itong na-encounter, nung nagtuturo ako sa isang private school na kung saan pinapatunog ito ng 6 p.m. So, talagang I was shocked and I don't know what to do, kung ano kung ititigil ko ba ang klase or i-continue ko ba ang discussion. But according to the students, this is the culture of our school, sir, and we have to stop doing anything pag tumunog na po yung Angelus prayer. So that is basically what I can remember as an experience for this one. Pero going back to the life of Jose Rizal, talagang they usually observe this particular sounds na tutunog po siya sa mga respective times na nabanggit ko po kanina sa inyo. Yung 6 a.m., 12 noon, at saka 6 p.m. din po tutunog. So very observant po ang family nila Rizal nito. At this is one, okay, of the the unforgettable experiences also ni Rizal ng kanyang kabataan. Recounting this childhood experience in his student memoirs, Rizal wrote, ito po ang sinulat ni Jose Rizal. Thus, my heart fed on somber and melancholic thoughts, so that even while still a child, I already wandered on wings of fantasy is the high regions of the Anon. So parang, just like any other child in the world, may mga concept tayo of fantasy long before. May mga concept tayo ng mga kinakatakutan nating mga paniniwala, okay? Or mga stories before na itinuturo or isinasabi or ikinikwento din ng ating mga aunties, mga uncles, or yung mga taong nauna sa atin in the family. Usually, ito po. So, the imagination of Rizal, just like any other child in the world, ganun din po ang kanyang iniisip na ano kaya ang pwede pang mangyari, ano kaya ang nasa likod ng lugar na to, if I'm going to travel that place, ano kaya ang pwede kong makita. Like for example, in the dark portion of the night, ano kaya ang pwede kong ma-expect for that particular thing? So, this is how, okay, the mind of a young Jose Rizal before talking about his childhood years in Calamba. The hero's first sorrow. So lahat po tayo, it's not only Jose Rizal but I think everybody of us, may mga experiences tayong we could not be able to control ourselves but nalulose ang ating emotions, nawawala ang ating control in ourselves, especially talking about the loss of somebody else in our family. And this is also what happened to our national hero. The hero's first sorrow to be considered. The Rizal children were bound together by ties of love and championship. So, di ba, na-explain ko na po sa inyo before na napaka-close talaga ng family na ito or napaka-close talaga ng mga siblings na ito. Even if 11 sila, it's a big family to be considered in the Philippines. Pero there is cooperation, there is unity, nagmamahalan ang Rizal's family or Rizal's siblings to be considered. So accordingly, they were well bred for their parents taught them to love and help one another. So ito po talaga yung mai-expect natin as a description for Rizal's siblings. Napaka-close po nila. As I said to you, model po sila na family to be considered if we have to mirror ourselves to their family. Unfortunately, Concha died of sickness in 1865 when he was only 3 years old. Jose, who was very fond of her, cried bitterly at losing her. So definitely, kasi magkasunod po sila. Pang-7 po si Rizal sa magkakapatid, pang-8 po kasi si Concha. But 3 taon ang nakalipas or 3 years only, namatay po si Concha. So that is why ito po yung considered as the first sorrow talaga ng ating national hero. Kasi before this particular moment sa kanilang family, happiness lang po ang nararamdaman ni Rizal. Nung nawala po si Concha, ito po yung one of the, or ito po yung considered as the first sorrow of our national hero na talagang umiyak po siya because of the loss of this particular sister. When I was 4 years old, he said, I lost my little sister Concha. And then for the first time, I shed tears caused by love and grief. The death of little Concha brought him his first sorrow. So ganito talaga yung linya ni Rizal, no? For the first time, I shed tears caused by love and grief. Talagang napakamahal niya po si Concha. So, in that way, dyan po nagsimula ang first painful experience ng ating national hero. So, let's have to recapitulate the devotion of Rizal to Roman Catholicism as a religion. Because Rizal was a devoted son of the church, okay? A scion of a Catholic clan, born and bred in a wholesome atmosphere of Catholicism and possessed of an inborn pious spirit, Rizal grew up a good Catholic. So, when we define, kasi may issues dito na lumabas, no, if Rizal retract, no, from the kind of religion na pinaniniwalaan niya before because of the implementation of the friar. So, i-discuss po natin yan sa ating mga susunod na videos para ma-identify po natin. Kasi going back sa kanyang childhood years, talagang napaka-avid po na follower ni Rizal sa religion na Roman Catholicism, which was actually introduced to us by the Spaniards, definitely, as our colonizer Caesar before. Pero as to the teaching, as to the doctrine, minahal at niyakap po ito ng family ni Rizal. And specifically, on the existence of Jose Rizal, talagang avid po siya na follower ng doctrine po ng Roman Catholicism in the country. He loved to go to church, to pray, to take part in novenas, and to join religious processions. So ito po yung mga usual na ginagawa ng ating national hero. It is said that he was so seriously devout that he was laughingly called Manong Jose by the Hermanos and Hermanas Terceras. So ganun po ang nangyari. Because of that devotion, usually tawag nila sa kay Jose Rizal is Manong Jose at the time. One of the men he esteemed and respected in Calamba during his boyhood was the scholarly Father Leoncio Lopez, the town priest of the place where nakatira po ang ating national hero. He used to visit this learned Filipino priest and listen to his stimulating opinions on current events and sound philosophy of life. So, one of the influences talaga ni Rizal in his existence in Calamba ay si Father Leoncio Lopez. Kasi usually they talk about the philosophies, they talk about principles, no? They're sharing their thoughts with the current situation of Calamba at the time talking about. So ganun po ang nangyari. So may malaking impact po sa existence ni Rizal itong si Father Leoncio Lopez. So now let's go with our discussion with the famous The Story of the Moth. Kasi ito po yung pinaka-the best or pinaka-unforgettable story according to Jose Rizal sa lahat ng mga naikwento niyang kanyang mother, kasi usually ginagawa po talaga nila ito na every night nagbabasa yung kanyang mother ng story and si Rizal naman ay nakikinig ng mabuti sa kanyang mother. So one of the stories told by Doña Tudora to her favorite son Jose, okay, that of the young moth made the profoundest impression on him. Speaking of this incident, Rizal wrote. So at this moment sa video na ito, allow me to read some of the portion ng istoryang ito, and I hope you could be able to get the lesson out from this one, because at the end of our reading session, I will have to speak with you or to discuss with you ano yung pinaka-importanting maintindihan natin with this particular story of the moth. One night, all the family except my mother and myself went to bed early. Why, I do not know. But we two remained sitting alone. The candles had already been put out. The room was dimly lighted by a single light of coconut oil. This night, my mother became impatient with hearing me read so poorly. I did not understand Spanish, and so I could not read with expression. She took the book for me. My attention increased from the first sentence. I looked toward the light and fixed my gaze on the moths, which were circling around it. The story could not have been better timed. My mother repeated the warning of the old moth. She dwelt upon it and directed it to me. I heard, but it is a curious thing that the light seemed to me each time more beautiful, the flame more attractive. I really envied the fortune of the insects. My mother kept on reading and I listened breathlessly. The fate of the two insects interested me greatly. The flame rolled its golden tongue to one side, and a moth, which this movement had singed, fell into the oil, fluttered for a time, and then became quiet. That became, for me, a great event. The flame and the moth seemed to go further away, and my mother's words sounded strange and uncanny. I did not notice when she ended the fable. All my attention was fixed on the face of the insect. It had died a martyr to its illusions. So, highlight po natin yung pinakalas. I hope you are listening and nakuha nyo yung idea talaga. But if hindi nyo naintindihan, i-discuss natin sa inyo ng konti. Okay, focus on the last line. Diba sinabi niya, it had died a martyr to its illusion. So, there's a lesson talking about. Because, accordingly, as she put me to bed, my mother said, nung humiga na sila right after the reading session, okay, eto po yung sabi ni Doña Chodora kay Jose Rizal. See that you do not behave like the young moth, don't be disobedient, or you may get burnt as it did. Okay? So meaning to say, kung hindi ka makikinig sa mga statement ng mga nakakatanda sa iyo, for example, pwede kang masunog just like the moth. Ito po yung statement ng kanyang mother right after the reading session. I do not know whether I answered or not, according to Rizal. The story revealed to me things until then unknown. May mga message, no, ang story sa kanya na hindi pa niya maintindihan sa ngayon, according to our national hero. Moths no longer were for me insignificant insects. Moths talked. They knew how to warn. They advised just like my mother. The light seemed to me more beautiful. It had grown more dazzling and more attractive. I knew why the moth circled the flame. So meaning to say, as to the story, okay, according to our national hero, he interpreted, okay, na alam ko na may purpose ang moth sa kanyang ginawa. Even if nagbigay na ng warning ang kanyang mother, nagbigay na ng warning ang mga tao sa kanya, nagbigay na ng warning ang lahat ng mga kakilala niya, pero alam ng moth na ito kung ano ang goal niya, kung ano ang vision niya, kung ano ang purpose niya in the very first place. Kaya that is why even if the moth is aware, okay, for the possible thing that might happen to that particular insect, nagpatuloy pa rin siyang gawin ang kanyang passion. So that's how Rizal interpreted the situation at that night. The tragic fate of the young moth, which died a martyr to its illusions, left a deep impress on Rizal's mind. He justified such noble death, asserting that to sacrifice one's life for it, meaning for an ideal, is worthwhile. Okay, there's a purpose, there's a reason, no? You are killing yourself, but there's a purpose na pwede mong or na nagawa mo unknowingly for the people or for everybody. And like that young moth, he was fated to die as a martyr for noble idea. So, parang kung yung story ng moth na yun, if you are going to relate nung nangyari sa kanyang kamatayan in Bagong Bayan, so there's a resemblance. Okay, parang nagkaroon ng significant. Yung story na ikwinento ng kanyang magulang long time ago is nangyari din po sa kanya. But according to Jose Rizal, it might be a wrong decision from the minds of the people who is watching, okay? From the mind of the people who witnessed that particular event. Mali ito para sa kanila. But for Jose Rizal and for that particular moth, alam nila kung ano yung purpose ng sakripisyong iyan. Even to the extent of sacrificing their lives. Alam po nila ang purpose within themselves. Ganun po si Rizal, okay? Or ganun po, na-interpret na Rizal ang story of the moth. That is why in the history, significant po ang kwentong ito sa buhay ng ating national hero. At this juncture, we will have to show to you na si Jose Rizal po ay may iba't iba din pong talent. Okay, definitely. The first one is ang pagiging artistic ng ating national hero. Since early childhood, Rizal revealed his God-given talent for art. At the age of 5, he began to make sketches with his pencil and to mold clay and wax objects which attracted his fancy. So ito po yung mga karaniwang ginagawa ng ating national hero before, showing the skill in arts, no, ng ating national hero. Jose had soul for a genuine artist. Ganun kung i-define si Jose Rizal. Rather an introvert child with a skinny physique and sad dark eyes, he found great joy looking at the blooming flowers, the ripening fruits, the dancing waves of the lake, and the milky clouds in the sky, and listening to the songs of the birds, the chirping of the cicadas, and the murmurings of the breezes. So ganito po, things that we cannot imagine, nagagawa po ng napakagandang imagination ng ating national hero. Na kumbaga, in a common people, this is normal, and yeah, nag-exist ang bagay na yan, but we don't have deep interpretation. But si Rizal, kaiba po siya. Kasi yung mga simpleng bagay na nakikita nating normal, sa kanya meron po siyang deep meaning and interpretation na kung saan nai-imagine niya sa kanyang mismong sarili at nailalabas niya ang mga ito sa pamamagitan ng mga arts na kanyang napoproduce. Okay? So, ganun po. With that particular said, isa pong artistic ang ating national hero. One interesting anecdote about Rizal was the incident about his clay and wax images. One day when he was about 6 years old and his sisters laughed at him for spending so much time making those images rather than participating in their games. Kasi usually si Rizal, hindi siya nakikijoin sa mga laro ng kanyang mga sisters and other friends there sa kanilang lugar. So because Rizal is unique, so pinagtawanan po siya ng kanyang mga sisters kung bakit doon siya mas lalong na busy at hindi siya nakikimingle sa kanyang mga friends. So ganun po at saka sa kanyang mga sisters. Pero the response of our national hero is like this. He kept silence as they laughed with childish glee. Okay? But as they were departing, nung paalis na po sila, he told them, "All right, laugh at me now. Someday when I die, people will make monuments and images of me." So ito po, panoorin niyo po sa inyong screen, ito po yung mga patunay, no? Nung sinabi ni Jose Rizal before na someday people will make monuments for me or for my life, ito po ang patunay because not only in the Philippines may monuments po ang ating national hero, because even outside the country, nire-recognize po si Jose Rizal as national hero of the Philippines. So now let's go to first poem by Rizal. So because aside from any artistic ability of our national hero, meron din siyang talent no in poem writing. So basically napakaraming tula po ang nai-produce ng ating national hero. Aside from his sketching and sculpturing talent, Rizal possesses a God-given gift for literature because namana niya po ito sa kanyang mother, which is good also in literature. Since early boyhood, he had scribbled verses on loose sheets of paper and on the textbooks of his sisters. His mother, who was a lover of literature, noticed his poetic inclination and encouraged him to write poetry. So this is one of the reasons why mas lalong na-develop yung pagiging poetic ng ating national hero because he was supported by his mother who is also good in writing poems, something like that. So at the age of 8, Rizal wrote his first poem in the native language entitled Sa Aking Mga Kababata, or in English, To My Fellow Children. So as an early age of 8 years old, I can't imagine that for this particular age, nakasulat na po ang ating national hero ng isang poem. So kayo, nung nag 8 years old kayo, ano kaya ang naisulat or nagawa ninyo na significant until today? Okay, so but our national hero, nakapagsulat po siya ng poem at the age of 8. So let's go now to the first drama by Rizal. After writing the poem To My Fellow Children, Rizal, who was then 8 years old, wrote his first dramatic work, which was a Tagalog comedy. Okay, it is said that it was staged in a Calamba festival and was delightfully uploaded by the audience. Nung itinanghal ito, yung script na isinulat ni Jose Rizal, because accordingly it was a Tagalog comedy, a lot of people were clapping their hands at talagang they're showing their appreciation to the act or to the script made by Jose Rizal. And in fact, ang isang gobernadorcillo ng place nila in Calamba, binili po actually ang script ni Jose Rizal kasi napakaganda daw po according to the description. So ganun po ang nangyari. So that will prove that Rizal is really a good writer. Aside from being a good writer, Rizal is also a magician, okay? Since early manhood, Rizal had been interested in magic. With dexterous hands or skillful hands, he learned various tricks such as making a coin appear or disappear in his fingers and making a handkerchief vanish in thin air. He entertained the fox by magic lantern exhibitions. So, grabe si Jose Rizal, no? Because hindi lang po siya excel in sculpturing, in writing poem, writing drama, script, but at the same time, he is also a magician. So, everything else, parang it's a package sa kanyang existence na he can also entertain people by this particular talent in magic. So, now let's proceed with our discussion sa story on the Lakeshore Reveries. Ito yung mga emotional part na ng ating national hero. During the twilight hours of summertime, Rizal, accompanied by his pet dog, used to meditate at the shore of Laguna de Bay on the sad condition of his oppressed people because Rizal is really observant. Everything else na nakikita niya, parang dinidibdib niya, he is carrying that particular event as a burden sa kanyang existence. So, ganun po ang nasa utak ng ating national hero. So, years later, he related, ito po ang statement ni Jose Rizal. Almost every day in our town, we saw the Guardia Civil lieutenant canning and injuring some unarmed and offensive villagers. The villagers' only fault was that while at a distance, he had not taken off his hat and made his bow. The alcalde treated the poor villages in the same way whenever he visited us. So grabe no, ang kasalanan lang po ng tao is hindi siya nakapagbow nung nagkasalubong sila ng isang lieutenant or ng isang Guardia Civil lieutenant na kailangan talagang magbow sila. Kung nakaligtaan mo ito, napaka-brutal, okay? Napaka-cruel na po ng punishment na ipapataw sa iyo ng mga taong ito or ng mga colonizers ng panahong iyon. So see how difficult it is. So dinidib po ito ng ating national hero. Kinimkim na po ang galit na one day I have to avenge with this particular people. So young as he was, he grieved deeply over the unhappy situations of his beloved fatherland. The Spanish misdeeds awakened in his boyish heart and a great determination to fight tyranny. When he became a man, many years later, he wrote to his friend Mariano Ponce. Ito po ang sabi niya kay Mariano Ponce. In view of these injustices and cruelties, although yet a child, my imagination was awakened, and I made a vow dedicating myself someday to avenge the many victims. With this idea in mind, I studied, and this is seen in all my writings. Someday, God will give me the opportunity to fulfill my promise. So, at this point sa isinulat ni Rizal, telling to Mariano Ponce sa kanyang mga plano in the future, dito natin makikita talaga ang bravery ng ating national hero. That in the sense of his writing, makikita natin na wala siyang pakialam kung mamatay man siya sa pakikipaglaban na ito because according to him, pag magkaroon ako ng opportunity na magiganti or makipaglaban sa mga taong ito, gagawin ko po talaga ang best ko para sa kalayaan ng aking mga kapwa Filipino at the time. So parang that kind of thinking, no, that I'm sure not everybody can think of, that I'm sure not everybody will think, no, for the welfare of the people. So dito talaga natin makikita ang bravery ng ating national hero and kanyang love for country Philippines and of course people in the Philippines at that moment, no, that we have to consider. So ganito po ang kanyang sinabi kay Mariano Ponce and it happened in the history. Talagang ginawa niya. Talagang nangyari po ang bagay na ito nung sinabi niya or yung mga sinabi niya po mismo kay Mariano Ponce. So now let's proceed with our discussion on the influences on the hero's boyhood. Kasi remember kung sino yung ating nai-interact, di ba sabi ko sa inyo, may malaking mga influences po sila na maiiwan sa ating existence. Kaya nga po, as we interact with the people, let us be careful kung sino po ang ating nakakasalamuha. Kasi meron po talaga silang impact to our existence. So on the night of Rizal was born, other children were born in Calamba and hundreds of other children were also born all over Philippines. That is correct, no? Nung ipinanganak si Rizal, marami po siyang kasabayan in Calamba and even the entire Philippines. But why is it out of these children, only one boy, Jose Rizal, rose to fame and greatness? So ano kaya ang mga dahilan at ano ang mga influences na ito sa buhay ng ating national hero na maituturing talaga nating significant even up to this day. In the lives of all men, there are influences which cause some to be great and others not. In the case of Rizal, he had all the favorable influences few other children in his time enjoyed. So basically, sa linyang ito, may interpret natin, maswerte si Rizal kasi naging part siya ng middle class in the society. Meaning to say, a lot of opportunities na na-experience ni Rizal na hindi pwedeng ma-enjoy ng ibang bata nung panahon na yon because everything is controlled. Hindi po fully na ibibigay ang kalayaan sa bawat isa. So, opportunity po, it's a privilege only to enjoy such kind of thing. These influences were the following. First one is ang tinatawag nating hereditary influence. Second one is ang tinatawag nating environmental influence. And the third one is ang tinatawag nating aid of divine providence. So, tatlo po ang mga influences na dapat nating maintindihan as part of the connection of our national hero. So, the first one is hereditary influence. According to biological science, there are inherent qualities which a person inherits from his ancestors and parents. So, yung mga namana po, that is what we call hereditary influence. Okay? Yung mga namana natin from our parents and from our ancestors. So, basically, nabuksan na po natin ang discussion natin sa part na yan sa chapter 1. From Malayan ancestors, Rizal evidently inherited his love for freedom, his innate desire to travel, and his indomitable courage or impossible courage na tanging si Rizal lang talaga ang nagtataglay or few of the people lamang ang nagtataglay, especially sa panahon ng colonization. Okay? From his Chinese ancestors, he derived his serious nature of frugality and patience and love for children. Because basically, mga Chinese people, they are into business, so that is why mahirap po talaga nilang igasta yung kanilang pera. Frugality, matipid po, no, from the family of his father na mga Chinese, namana po niya ang konsepto na ito. And of course, patience, because you have to deal people and you are dealing actually business. From his Spanish ancestors, he got his elegance of bearing, sensitivity to insult, and gallantry to ladies. Okay? Sensitivity to insult. Yan po ang mga ugali talaga ng mga Spaniards. Na ang mga Filipinos din, if you observe this generation, kasi of course may mga Filipinos na nag-i-exist ngayon na talagang may dugo silang Espanyol. And we can observe this particular behavior coming from them. From his father, he inherited a profound sense of self-respect, the love for work, and the habit of independent thinking. Di ba sinabi ko sa inyo sa first video na independent po talaga kung mag-isip ang kanyang father na kung saan namana din po ito ng ating national hero. From his mother, he inherited his religious nature, the spirit of self-sacrifice, and the passion for arts and literature. So now let's go to the second influence of Rizal, which is talking about the environmental influence. According to psychologists, environment as well as hereditary affects the nature of a person. Highlight natin, affects the nature of a person. Malaking impact po ang environment na kung saan tayo lumaki at kung sino ang mga tao naging part sa ating interaction in our daily existence. Environmental influence includes places, associates, and events. Okay, yun po ang sinabi ko sa inyo kanina. The scenic beauties of Calamba and the beautiful garden of the Rizal family stimulated the inborn and artistic and literary talents of Jose Rizal. So yun po ang nakapag-trigger sa kanyang pagiging isang artistic, no? The kind of place, the kind of situation, the location kung saan po lumaki mismo ang ating national hero. The religious atmosphere at his home fortified his religious nature. His brother, Pasiano, instilled in his mind the love for freedom and justice. Di ba sabi niya po sa isa sa mga writings, Rizal regarded Pasiano as the most noble of Filipinos talaga. So parang kumbaga Rizal used Pasiano as a model for everything. So according to Rizal, pinaka-perfect po talaga na Filipino si Pasiano. From his sisters, kasi marami po sila, 'di ba? 11 siblings, okay, pero dalawa lang po diyan ang lalaki, Jose and Pasiano. The rest, yung 9, mga babae po talagang lahat. So from his sisters, he learned to be courteous and kind to women. From his tío Jose Alberto, who had studied for 11 years in a British school in Calcutta, India, and had traveled in Europe, inspired him to develop his artistic ability. So from Tío Jose Alberto, inspired him to develop his artistic ability. From Tío Manuel, a husky and athletic man, encouraged him to develop his frail body by means of physical exercises, including horseback riding, walking, and wrestling. So ito nung pong si Tío Manuel ay nakapag-hone sa kanyang skill na self-protection, self-defense, kasi you might be encountering this duel in the future, so at least you could be able to protect yourself. So ito po ang itinuro ni Tío Manuel kay Jose Rizal. So from Tío Gregorio, a book lover, intensified his voracious reading of good books. So yung pagiging isang mahilig magbasa naman po ng ating national hero was taken from Tío Gregorio. From Father Leoncio Lopez, the old and learned parish priest of Calamba, fostered Rizal's love for scholarship and intellectual honesty. Ito po yung nako-converse ni Rizal about the happenings of the Philippines before, about principles and philosophies na diniscuss ko po sa inyo kanina. The sorrows in his family, such as the death of Concha in 1865 and the imprisonment of his mother in 1871 to 1874, contributed to strengthen his character, enabling him to resist blows of adversities in later years. So mas naging matibay po ang ating national hero because ginamit niya po ito as motivation, as inspiration. Itong mga painful, itong mga grief and sorrows sa kanyang life, no, basically talking about the death of Concha and the imprisonment of his mother. The Spanish abuses and cruelties which he witnessed in his boyhood, such as the brutal acts of the lieutenant of the Guardia Civil and the alcalde, the unjust tortures inflicted on innocent Filipinos, and the execution of Fathers Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora in 1872, awakened his spirit of patriotism and inspired him to consecrate his life and talents to redeem his oppressed people. So yun po, those were the events, no, that contributed to the emotion of our national hero to fight for the right and to finally work for the overthrowing of the colonizers, talking about the 19th century. Na kahit alam niyang delikado, na kahit alam niyang pwedeng magwakas ang kanyang buhay, talagang itinuloy pa rin ni Jose Rizal ang kanyang plan to let the country Philippines be free from the hands of the colonizers, specifically from the hands of the Spaniards. So the third influence of Rizal is talking about the aid of divine providence. Okay, greater than heredity and environment in the fate of man is the aid of divine providence. A person may have everything in life that is correct, brains, wealth, and power, but without the aid of divine providence, he cannot attain greatness in the annals of the nation. Rizal was providentially destined to be the pride and glory of his nation. God had endowed him with the versatile gifts of a genius, the vibrant spirit of a nationalist, and the valiant heart to sacrifice for a noble cause. Because remember, going back to the life of Jose Rizal, talagang they are believing the existence of God. They are avid follower of the doctrine of Roman Catholicism. They believe that life is precious, something like that we have to culture. So ito po yung naging paraan or naging daan ni Jose Rizal to accomplish everything that he is dreaming for the country Philippines. Diba remember, sabi niya, in God's will or in God's perfect time, I could be able to do what I am dreaming for my country Philippines. So that is why in that particular nurturing of religious faith coming from the mother, specifically of Jose Rizal, naging daan ito para maisakatuparan ng ating national hero ang kaniyang hangarin para sa bansang Pilipinas. So again, balikan natin ang ating mga influences. This can also be done sa ating existence as a person living in this particular world. So meron po tayong influences that not only Jose Rizal can be affected, but also tayo po mismo, okay, as our existence reveals, kailangan din po natin itong ma-observe, okay, and ma-evaluate kung sino ba ang mga naka-influence sa ating existence. So you have always to consider with your existence that you could be influenced by these particular things. The hereditary influence, the environmental influence, and the aid of divine providence. So that would be all for this morning. I hope you learned something from this video, and I hope that you will share this video to your friends and to anybody else that you think nangailangan ng video na ito. Asahan niyo po that Sir Job TV will continue to discuss more meaningful discussions, especially in the world of social sciences. Thank you once again for watching. Bye-bye!